That podcast episode you published 2 years ago could still be earning you money today. Are you mining your library or just letting it sit there? Well, most podcasters treat their back catalog like a closed book. Published, done. On to the next one, right? Well, today I want to show you a few ways that you could maybe get paid again, or maybe for the first time, for content that you've already made without ever having to record a single new episode. So stick around. I'm Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer, and this is Legit Podcast Pro, the show that helps podcasters protect their shows and find the business value that they've already built with strategies that you could put to use right now, today. So, a few days ago, I got an email from a podcast producer. She'd been digging through the legal forms and templates available over on my site, podcastlawforms.com. She was looking for one specific thing, a contract to use with a guest who wanted to reuse clips from their episode for their own marketing, their own advertising. This is not a rebroadcast, not a syndication deal, just a guest who liked how they came across and looked and sounded and wanted to put a piece of that episode on their own website, in their social media feeds, and on their own sales page, maybe use it as an ad here and there. And the producer didn't mind that, but didn't have anything for that either. No template, no standard agreement, no process, just an email that she really wasn't sure quite how to answer. Now, here's why that email stuck with me, because it's proof that your back catalog is already generating demand. Somebody somewhere probably wants a piece of what you've already made. The only question is whether you're set up to say yes to that safely and on your terms. See, every episode you've ever published still exists. It still has value, and in most cases, it still belongs entirely to you. That's not nothing. That's inventory. And most of it is just sitting there doing nothing, while you pour all your energy into whatever episode comes next. So let's talk about what you could actually do with that library of content. The guest who emailed that producer is scenario one, a straightforward request to reuse a clip. And it's worth pausing here to talk about it, because how you answer that question or inquiry matters more than whether you answer it. You see, saying sure, go ahead is not really a license. It's not really even an answer. It doesn't say which clip. It doesn't say how long they're allowed to use, how much of it or how long they're allowed to use it, where they can use it, or whether they can edit it and do those kinds of things. The guest who hears sure, go ahead might reasonably assume that it means forever, anywhere, in any form they like, including an ad campaign that maybe you would never have agreed to if you'd thought it through and seen it coming. Well, what you actually want to give them is a short, limited scope license agreement. It names the specific clip or clips. It says what the guest can do with them, their own marketing, their own social media, whatever it is that you're comfortable with. And it puts a time limit on it, or at least defines the scope and breadth of things clearly. And it makes clear what you're not granting, so nobody winds up guessing later on. And it can put a price on that permission that you're giving. Nice. Now, this is exactly the kind of scenario that led me to build the forms library over at podcastlawforms.com. Now, in this case, I actually haven't yet uploaded that particular form, a limited use clip license sized for precisely this situation. That's on my to-do list for tomorrow. Somebody asks, you send them a document, they sign it, everybody knows exactly what they agreed on. It takes the guesswork out of a conversation that most podcasters are currently handling by gut feel and good intentions. But here's where it gets more interesting. That email wasn't just an opportunity to grant a license. It was much, much more. It was an opportunity to sell a service. Think about what most of us are already doing. If you're putting out shorts or reels or clips to promote your own show, then you already have the workflow in place. You already know how to find the best 30 seconds of a conversation. You already have the editing process locked down, and pulling 2 or 3 clips that showcase a specific guest, not really a heavy lift. It's a slight tweak to something that you're probably doing already anyway. So instead of waiting for a guest to ask, why not offer it? Say at the end of the recording, hey, I could put together a couple of highlight clips featuring you ready for your own marketing. That's not a favor anymore. That's a service that you're providing. And it's one that you are uniquely positioned to deliver because you already have that raw footage, the editing chops, and this is the part that matters, the actual rights to the underlying recording. Now, once you're creating something new, the legal picture shifts a little. You're no longer just licensing an existing clip, an existing piece of IP. You're producing new material that features someone else, possibly with their input on how it's cut, possibly without. Now, a few things are worth thinking through before you turn this into a standing offer, maybe even build a business around it. First off, ownership. You're the one producing these cut downs, so you should be clear about who owns them. Typically, that's you, with a license being granted to the guest for their use. Second is the scope, same as before. How long, where, in what form? And third, if the guest wants input into the edit or approval before it goes out, well, decide that up front rather than after you've already sent them the rough cut that you thought was good enough. Maybe they didn't. And fourth, if this becomes a paid add-on rather than just a courtesy you're providing, you'll want simple payment terms. What it costs, when it's due, what happens if they want changes, and don't forget how to pay. Now, none of this needs to be complicated, but it does need to be in writing, because we talked about it on a call, in air quotes, isn't a contract. And a guest's memory of that call is not guaranteed to match yours. Now, let's scale that idea up, and you get a bigger version of similar principle. Instead of one guest wanting one clip, imagine a network, a platform, a media company, maybe a local radio or TV station wanting to carry your existing episodes, full episodes, not just clips, in exchange for a fee or a share of revenue or an opportunity to sell ads on their air, something like that. That is called syndication. Same underlying logic as the guest clip license. You're granting a defined, limited right to use content you already made. And the difference is scale. And usually the stakes go up along with it, which means the contract terms deserve more attention, not less. Or imagine a brand, a course creator, or a media company wants to use excerpts from your show, audio, video, maybe even a transcript, inside something they're building. A compilation or a training program, a documentary. Same principle again. You're not creating something new for them. You're licensing something you already have for a specific and limited purpose for a price. And one more version worth a quick mention, and that is repackaging your own catalog into something new that you sell directly. A best of compilation, a themed clip series, material pulled from old episodes and folded into a paid newsletter or a course. This one isn't licensing to somebody else at all. It's you remonetizing your own work in a new form. So 5 different scenarios here, one underlying idea. The work you've already done doesn't stop having value the day you publish it. But, and this is the important part, none of that works if you don't actually own clean rights to what's in the episode in the first place. Now, if you've been listening to this show for a while, you've heard me talk about guest releases, contributor agreements, podcast prenups, and music licensing, and this is exactly why those things really matter. If a guest never signed a release granting you the rights to use their appearance, then you don't have a clean asset you can license. What you have is a legal question mark, or a cloud over what we call the cloud over the title. So if a co-host has a murky ownership interest over episodes they helped create, then licensing anything there gets complicated really fast. And if you used music without a proper license, maybe you didn't get caught on the podcast episode, but none of what we just talked about is going to be available to you until that's resolved. You can't license something you don't own. Now, the documents you put in place early is what makes all of this possible later on. It's the difference between a back catalog that's a genuine asset and a catalog that's just a pile of files you're hoping nobody looks at too closely. So here's what I want you to do. Think back over your last year of episodes. Has anyone ever asked to reuse a clip, a quote, a guest appearance? If the answer is yes, how did you handle it? And would you handle it the same way today? And if the answer is no, well, ask yourself whether it's really because nobody wants to, or because you've just never made it easy for them to ask. And as your catalog grows, this only gets more relevant. More episodes, more guests, more requests. Answering each one by instinct becomes a bigger risk the more valuable your content actually becomes. Your back catalog isn't dead weight, it's dormant inventory. But it only stays an asset if the rights underneath it are actually clean and if you're ready to say yes on terms that protect you instead of just saying, sure, go ahead. So if someone emailed you tomorrow asking to use a clip, would you know what to say yes to? And just as important, would you know what to say no to? Your back catalog is an asset that you can monetize if you think it through and plan for it. So why not? What have you got to lose? If you want a simple way to audit your own back catalog and figure out what's actually protected and what's sitting there unprotected, that's exactly what my Creator Business Protection Blueprint is built to help you do. You'll find it at gordonfiremark.com/blueprint. That link's in the notes below. So, this is Legit Podcast Pro. I'm Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Thanks for being with me.